What makes a great character? What defines a truly great fiction? This question has lingered with me through countless stories, from fleeting films to immersive games. Whether a narrative captivates or falters, I often find myself dissecting the character. Why do some inspire disdain while others compel me to embody their essence long after the story ends? I believe that while a plot-driven story can succeed or fail based on its execution, a character-driven tale, anchored by a compelling protagonist, almost always ascends to greatness. In Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan emerges as such a protagonist, an outlaw whose complexity and humanity make him one of the most unforgettable characters in gaming history. In November 2019, amidst the monotony of college projects and the onset of the COVID-19 lockdown, I finally dove into Red Dead Redemption 2. What began as a distraction became a profound journey through a meticulously crafted Wild West, where the game's gripping story and vivid world transcended mere entertainment. Over the past 6 years, this experience has lingered, not just for its stunning visuals or expansive gameplay, but for Arthur Morgan's story, a narrative so real and emotionally resonant that it redefines what a video game character can be. In this analysis, I intend to explore Arthur's character, focusing on his core wounds, his evolution, and the elements that make him a phenomenal protagonist, drawing on the game's narrative and my personal reflections that I have been holding on to for so long. And if you still haven't played the game yet, well, I don't know what to say besides play it soon, because his discussion assumes familiarity with the full story of Red Dead Redemption 2. So consider this your spoiler warning. Now that's out of the way, let's discuss Arthur's core wounds, the foundation of his character. I'd like to start by saying something I think many of us quietly understand. We all carry a core wounds, a deep, often unspoken pain that, in many ways, makes us who we are. It's usually something we don't choose, something that happens to us early in life, often at the hands of those closest to us. More often than not, it's our parents who leave the first mark, whether through absence, neglect, control, or simply being human and flawed themselves. From that moment on, we begin to shape ourselves around that wounds, trying to fix it, trying to hide it, or eventually trying to make peace with it. Our personalities, our beliefs, our fears, and even our dreams can all be traced back to that initial break. This concept isn't just true for us, it's true for great storytelling too. At the heart of every memorable character lies that same kind of wounds. It's what makes them feel alive, complex, and deeply real. And Red Dead Redemption 2 absolutely nails this. It doesn't shout it in your face. It doesn't have characters dramatically monologue about their traumas. Instead, it lets those wounds live quietly beneath the surface, guiding choices, shaping relationships, and coloring how these characters see the world. That's what gives the story its weight. That's why it resonates so deeply. Arthur Morgan is one of those rare characters whose every action, whether noble, violent, selfish, or kind, feels tethered to something beneath the surface, something unresolved. His life as an outlaw isn't just the result of circumstance, it's the expression of inner damage. A search for identity, a hunger for belonging, a quiet ache for redemption. He's not just reacting to the world around him, he's reacting to the world inside him. To understand Arthur Morgan, we have to look beyond the gunslinger, the enforcer, the right-hand man of Dutch van der Linde. We have to look at the child he once was, the one who lost his parents young, who was taken in by a gang, and who learned early on that love is conditional and survival depends on loyalty. His wounds is abandonment, but also the deep-rooted fear of being unloved, unworthy, or forgotten. And so he builds his life around loyalty to Dutch, to the gang, to a fading idea of family, even when that loyalty starts to hurt him, even when it betrays him. Arthur's story, then, isn't just about outlaws or lawmen. It's about a man trying to understand who he is underneath the armor he's worn for years. A man trying to make sense of his pain before it's too late. And that's what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 such a powerful story. It doesn't just give us a character to follow, it gives us a wounds to feel. So, what are Arthur's wounds? The first wounds: abandonment and self-doubt. Arthur's primary wound stems from his early life, as he reveals in the game.
My mama died when I was a kid, and my daddy, well, I watched him die, and it weren't soon enough.
His mother died when he was very young, and his father, an outlaw, perished when Arthur was around 11. His terse recounting of his father's death, "I watched him die," betrays deep resentment, suggesting an abusive upbringing. While the game provides limited details, newspapers and dialogue hint that Arthur's father was a criminal, likely neglectful or harsh, leaving Arthur with a void of parental love. This wounds manifests as an insecurity about abandonment and self-worth, a constant question of whether he deserves to be loved. This insecurity fuels Arthur's fierce loyalty to Dutch van der Linde, the charismatic leader of the van der Linde gang, who becomes a surrogate father figure. Arthur was almost literally adopted by Dutch at the gang's inception, learning everything from him. Dutch fills the void left by Arthur's father, and Arthur's devotion to him is a compensatory act to heal the wounds of never having a parent's love. This dynamic is evident early in Chapter 1, set in the snowy Grizzlies, where Arthur rides alongside Dutch, either at the front or rear of the gang's caravan, symbolizing his role as Dutch's trusted enforcer. Yet, this loyalty blinds Arthur to Dutch's flaws, tethering him to a man whose ideals mask selfish motives. Now let's look at the second wounds: guilt and lost family. Arthur Morgan's second wounds, arguably even more haunting than the first, is guilt. Not just the everyday kind that sits on the surface, but a heavy, soul-wearing kind of guilt tied to the family he once had and lost.
You know, I had a son once, years ago. Don't talk about him much.
Oh, what was his name?
Isaac. His mother, Eliza, was a waitress I met. When she got pregnant, she knew who I was, what my life was. I didn't want to promise nothing I couldn't keep, but I said I'd do right by them. Every few months, I'd stop by there for a few days. He was such a good kid. She was too, I guess. Just a kid, 19.
What happened?
I got there one day and saw two crosses outside. I knew right away. Turned out some bastards had come through, robbed him, and shot him dead, and offered $10. It hardened me, feeling that kind of pain. But I know now that you don't get to live a bad life and have good things happen to you.
I think you're being hard on yourself.
Maybe. All I can do now is try and make some things right.
It's a past he rarely speaks of, buried deep beneath layers of stoicism and silence. But in a rare and vulnerable conversation with Rains Fall, a Native American chief who sees through Arthur's hardened exterior, that wounds briefly surfaces. Arthur speaks of Eliza and Isaac not with anger or sentimentality, but with a kind of numb regret. The voice of a man who knows he can't undo what's been done. It's not just sadness, it's shame. Shame that he wasn't there. Shame that, like his own father before him, he too became absent. And the moment the emotion becomes too much, he cuts it short with a deflection.
And how are you?
Never better.
You okay?
Peachy. I reckon you're gonna be just fine.
Are you all right? Can I get you some water?
No, I'm fine.
This loss, this failure, isn't just a piece of Arthur's backstory. It defines the way he moves through the world. It fuels his protective instincts, especially toward the van der Linde gang, which he clearly sees as a second chance at something resembling family. He can't bring back Isaac, but maybe he can keep Jack safe. Maybe he can be the man he wasn't when it mattered most. In the early chapters of the game, camp life reveals this subtle yearning. There's warmth in the mundane moments.
Look, Jack, it's a bluegill. It's almost as small as you. We should really throw these smaller ones back. Give them a chance to grow up a bit.
Hey, look at this.
And what?
This necklace I made.
Necklace?
For Mama.
Playing cards, sharing stories, and fishing with young Jack. These aren't distractions. They're acts of quiet redemption. Each small gesture, each shared meal or lesson passed on, is Arthur trying to rewrite the past in the present. Trying to protect someone else's child, perhaps in hopes that some part of him might still be worth saving. Even Arthur's more morally questionable decisions, intimidations, robberies, even killings, are often justified in his mind as necessary for the gang's survival. A man does what a man must, he says, echoing a belief forged from guilt. It's not just about loyalty, it's about penance. About doing what needs to be done so that no one else ends up like Eliza and Isaac. Because underneath the outlaw, underneath the gun and the bravado, there's still a man who lost everything.
Get the hell off of her, you son of a bitch. Hey!
How are you?
A friend of hers.
Get out of here, buddy. I paid.
Ain't paid to hit her, you goddamn animal. You okay?
Fine.
You sure? You're fine, old man.
Of course I'm fine. It's nothing.
I thought there was...
Yeah, it don't matter what you thought. It's okay. All right, let's go.
And maybe, just maybe, if he holds this family together a little longer, if he gives more than he takes, if he keeps the wolves at bay, he can finally forgive himself, or at least believe that he tried. Now, let's look at the duality of an outlaw. At the beginning of Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan appears as Dutch Vanderlyn's most loyal and fearsome enforcer, a rugged outlaw hardened by years on the run. In the snowy opening chapter, fresh off the disastrous Blackwater heist, Arthur moves through the blizzard with cold efficiency, carrying out Dutch's orders without hesitation. His gruff demeanor and no-nonsense attitude paint a picture of a man seemingly numb to sentiment and uninterested in the softer parts of life. But beneath that rough exterior is something far more complex. Arthur's sharp wit and quiet loyalty to those he cares about reveal a deeply buried selflessness. He cracks dry jokes and shares small moments of camaraderie around the campfire.
Jack of diamonds, I know you of old. You robbed my poor pockets of silver and gold.
These glimpses show a man who, while hardened by experience, still carries the spark of something gentler, a sense of humor, a protective instinct, and a hidden heart. What defines Arthur early on is his duality, kind and loyal to his gang, yet ruthless and fearsome to outsiders. This contrast is especially clear in scenes like his confrontation with Thomas Downs, a sick and struggling farmer. Arthur threatens him with chilling detachment, shaking him down for money in a moment that feels especially cruel.
You borrowed money from my business partner, Herr Strauss. You owe him, you took the money. He wants it back, what's not to understand? Where's our money?
I don't have it.
Sell your place.
We already owe more than it's worth.
Then sell your wife, or your family, or something. We ain't your idea of charity. Is that clear?
Thomas!
What are you looking at?
Thomas!
I said what you looking at, woman.
My husband isn't well. If we could just have more...
Like I said, we ain't nobody's idea of charity. Get us the money.
My husband's not cold in the ground and you've come back here. Archie, I nearly paid off what was owed.
Your husband knew the rules when he took that money. Now, I'm real sorry about the way things turned out. But he had a choice. Ain't my fault about the way the world is.
He didn't have a choice. He was good and he did good. There wasn't no choice in that. And you've as good as killed him yourself, and don't kid yourself. You had a choice.
You speak as if killing was something I cared about.
You ever wonder about eternity? You should.
I hope it's hot and terrible, Mrs. Downs. Otherwise, I'll feel I've been sold a false bill of goods. Now, please, give me that money. Either you got a lazy eye or lack of respect. Which is it, boy?
I ain't got no lazy eye. No respect for the likes of you.
Well, maybe when your mother's finished mourning your father, I'll keep her in black on your behalf. You think on that, boy?
He justifies it with cold rationalizations. Ain't my fault the way the world is, but the scene lingers because it feels at odds with the more compassionate man we occasionally see. It's jarring, and intentionally so. So why do we still empathize with Arthur, even when he commits acts like this? Because his cruelty often comes from a place of obligation, not malice. He doesn't hurt people for sport. He does it because he believes it's what's necessary to protect the gang, the only family he's ever really known. For Arthur, morality bends under the weight of survival. When he kills a witness, threatens a debtor, or robs a train, he's not seeking personal gain. He's doing what he thinks must be done to keep the gang alive. In his mind, he's the one carrying that burden so others don't have to. This is what makes Arthur compelling, not just his capacity for violence, but the way he justifies it to himself. He operates under the philosophy instilled in him by Dutch that the end justifies the means. And as long as those means protect the people he loves, Arthur is willing to do what others won't. But underneath that, there's always the tension, an internal struggle between who he is, who he used to be, and who he might still become. Arthur's complexity, the blend of savagery and sympathy, loyalty and doubt is what makes him feel so human. He is not a clean-cut hero, nor a one-note villain. He is a man caught in the middle, shaped by his past but not yet defined by it. And it's that internal battle, that effort to reconcile duty with morality, that draws us to him. Because like Arthur, we all wrestle with our own contradictions and hope in the end to make them mean something. Now let's look the pivotal scene, the catalyst, tuberculosis, and introspection.
Okay, now here. Breathe. Again. Let me see your tongue. Say ah. Ah.
What is it?
It's not good news.
I guess that.
You got tuberculosis. Really sorry for you, son. It's a hell of a thing.
Arthur Morgan's journey takes a profound and irreversible turn in Chapter 5 when he is diagnosed with tuberculosis, a slow, suffocating death sentence that he unknowingly contracted from Thomas Downs during their earlier violent encounter. It's a moment steeped in tragic irony. Arthur, who for so long lived by Dutch's brutal philosophy that the end justifies the means, is now forced to face the full weight of that ideology's consequences. The man he once threatened for a petty debt, a sickly, desperate soul, becomes the very source of his own undoing. The violence Arthur thought he could compartmentalize, justify, or bury in the name of survival has come back to claim him. The diagnosis itself is harrowing. After a severe coughing fit, Arthur collapses in the streets of Saint Denis. The world spins, the screen blurs, and in his delirium, he hears voices, echoes from his past.
We can't change what's done. We can only move on.
You have it in you, I can tell.
He didn't have a choice. He was good and he did good.
Ghosts of love, betrayal, and regret. It's not just his body that begins to break down in this moment, but also his carefully constructed identity. For the first time, he can no longer outrun the consequences of the life he's lived. This moment acts as an existential reckoning. Up until now, Arthur has been able to silence his doubts by burying them in loyalty, violence, and routine. But death brings clarity. The horizon of his life is now visible, and it demands answers. Has he lived well? Has he lived right? And most painfully, can any of it still be redeemed? The Arthur we see after Chapter 5 is not entirely new, but he is finally stripped bare. The internal conflict that once simmered beneath his stoic exterior now rises to the surface.
Arthur. Oh, Arthur. You're the only one of these fools knows just how lost he is.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
He becomes more introspective, more self-aware, and more emotionally volatile. We see him continue with dishonorable tasks, debt collecting, intimidation, but the weight of them changes. He begins to hesitate. It marks the beginning of Arthur choosing compassion, not obligation. His inner turmoil reaches a peak when he lashes out at Leopold Strauss, the gang's cold-blooded loan shark. After years of enforcing Strauss's predatory lending practices, Arthur finally reaches his limit.
Get up.
What?
Get up!
What is wrong?
Nothing's wrong. Nothing at all.
What are you doing?
Something I should have done a long time ago. Get your bag. Is this it?
I don't understand.
I ain't gonna kill you, though I probably should. You disgust me. And you shame us. If we could be shamed any more than we already are, that should do. Go!
I don't understand you. What are you doing?
Go and get a job!
You know, they say the sick delude themselves. I was your friend.
You and me, we ain't decent. But those folk, they was.
He forcibly expels Strauss from camp, telling him to get the hell out, not just as an act of rebellion against Dutch's crumbling leadership, but as an outright rejection of the immoral system he once upheld. In that moment, Arthur isn't just condemning Strauss, he's condemning a part of himself. A pivotal moment of clarity comes through an unexpected source, Sister Calderón, a nun he meets during a moment of quiet reflection. Their conversation is short but deeply impactful.
Mr. Morgan! Are you okay?
Well, never better. What are you doing here?
Well, I'm on my way down to Mexico. They're finally sending me on a mission. Brother Dorkins is very jealous. What's wrong?
I'm dying, sister.
Okay.
Yeah, I got TB. I got it. Beating a man to death for a few bucks. I've lived a bad life, sister.
We've all lived bad lives, Mr. Morgan. We all sin. But I know you.
You don't know me.
Forgive me, but that's the problem. You don't know you.
What do you mean?
I don't know, but whenever we happen to meet, you're always helping people and smiling.
I had a son. He passed away. I had a girl who loved me. I threw that away. My mama died when I was a kid. And my daddy, well, I watched him die. And it weren't soon enough.
My husband died a long time ago. Life is full of pain. But there is also love and beauty.
What am I gonna do now?
Be grateful that for the first time, you see your life clearly.
Sure.
Perhaps you could help somebody. Helping makes you really happy.
But I still don't believe in nothing.
Often, neither do I. But then I meet someone like you, and everything makes sense.
You're too smart for me, sister. I guess I'm afraid.
There is nothing to be afraid of, Mr. Morgan. Take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act.
She urges him to take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act. It's a simple suggestion, but it cuts through all the noise Arthur has carried for years. Her belief in him that he's still capable of goodness stands in stark contrast to how he sees himself. I'm afraid, he confesses, there is nothing to be done. But she disagrees. And for the first time, Arthur begins to entertain the possibility that maybe he isn't beyond saving. This conversation becomes a guiding light for the final leg of his journey. From this point on, Arthur doesn't just act out of obligation or survival. Arthur Morgan, a man who wrote of his own life as one of robbing and stealing and killing, was ultimately defined not by his crimes, but by the fierce, complicated loyalties of his found family. The Vanderlyn gang was the only home he had ever known, and within it, 3 figures formed the pillars of his world. Hosea Matthews, the father of his conscience, and Lenny Summers and Sean McGuire, the sons and brothers of his heart. The brutal, sequential destruction of these relationships is what shattered the myth of the outlaw life and forged Arthur's final, selfless redemption. Hosea was the gang's true north, a stark contrast to Dutch's volatile charisma, where Dutch was the dreamer promising a paradise just over the horizon. Hosea was the pragmatist who understood the cost of chasing it. For Arthur, he was more than a second father figure. He was the voice of reason and compassion in a life defined by violence. Hosea's quiet wisdom and gentle guidance represented a different path, one of thought over impulse, of de-escalation over destruction. His death wasn't just the loss of a mentor. It was the silencing of the gang's soul, leaving Arthur adrift in the storm of Dutch's unraveling sanity with no moral compass to guide him. If Hosea was the father, Sean and Lenny were the sons Arthur never had the chance to raise. They represented the gang's youth, its future, and its most potent lies. Sean McGuire was the laughing, reckless heart, the charming Irish rogue who embodied the romantic, jester freedom of their myth. His sudden, ugly death in Rhodes was the first crack in the facade.
This don't feel right.
Now it don't feel right. I could have told you.
He was a good kid. He was like an annoying little brother to me. What fun we had riding together. What a goddamn mess we were making of things.
A moment stripped of heroism that proved their bravado was no shield. It was the moment the laughter died. Lenny, on the other hand, was the gang's bright, promising future. Educated, sharp, and thoughtful, he was a young man Arthur viewed with a deep, paternal affection. In Lenny, Arthur saw a potential that reached far beyond the outlaw life.
Of course, just a drink.
Their shared drink in Valentine, descending into a chaotic but joyous night, reveals a genuine bond of mentorship and camaraderie. Arthur saw in Lenny not just a kid brother, but a son worth protecting.
Come on!
No! God damn it!
There's your deal, Dutch.
Hosea.
You goddamn sons of bitches! He's dead!
Oh, God, no! There's nothing we can do. We gotta keep moving. Watch the roads. Get after him. How the hell did they give us the...
To lose him in the same hail of bullets that claimed Hosea was the final, devastating blow. It was the confirmation that there was no future, no escape for the good and the promising, only a violent end. The silence left by these three men was deafening. The loss of Hosea was the loss of wisdom and restraint. The loss of Sean was the loss of joy and bravado. The loss of Lenny was the loss of hope and a better future. Stripped of his father, his brother, and his son, Arthur was forced to look inward, confronting his own mortality and the hollowness of Dutch's promises. This crucible of grief burned away his cynicism, leaving behind a singular, desperate purpose to ensure that from the ashes of his found family, someone might escape. Now let's look at a different kind of dynamic. Unlike Sean, John, or Dutch, it was the quiet strength of Sadie Adler and Charles Smith that gave Arthur a steady moral anchor, subtle but lasting, guiding him toward redemption when the world around him fell apart. Sadie's transformation from a grieving widow to a formidable force of nature offered Arthur a model of resilience and righteous anger. Their partnership, built on mutual respect, showed him a strength independent of the gang's flawed ideology. Her personal and just quest for revenge stood in stark contrast to the gang's increasingly senseless violence, inspiring Arthur to fight for something more meaningful. Charles Smith, a man of quiet integrity and unwavering honor, served as Arthur's conscience. Their bond was one of shared principles and a mutual disillusionment with the gang's decay. Charles's dedication to helping the Wapiti tribe exposed Arthur to a more noble struggle, reinforcing his own burgeoning sense of morality and duty outside the confines of Dutch's command. Similar to this, Arthur Morgan's relationship with Mary Linton serves as a central emotional conflict in his story. Representing the life of love and stability he sacrificed for the outlaw world of the Vanderlinde gang. Their connection is the ghost of what could have been, and their encounters are crucial moments that humanize Arthur and force him to confront his choices. Mary embodies a world of peace and normalcy that is fundamentally at odds with Arthur's violent existence. Each time she reappears in his life, it's for help that only his skills as an outlaw can provide, highlighting the tragic and inescapable gap between their worlds. These moments, like a shared afternoon at the theater, offer fleeting glimpses of a different life, exposing the yearning and regret beneath Arthur's hardened exterior. Ultimately, it was Arthur's trust in Sadie and Charles, not Dutch, that shaped his final choices, and reject the chaos that once defined his life. At the same time, Mary's final goodbye closed the door on his hopes for a future with her. That loss, paired with the inevitability of his illness, became the catalyst for change. Though he couldn't have the life he wanted, the love he felt for Mary, for John, for the idea of something better, fueled his final, selfless act, securing a future for the Marstons and defining his legacy through sacrifice and redemption. Now, let's look at Arthur's beginning of redemption, a shift in action. From Chapter 5 onward, Arthur Morgan begins to change, not out of desperation, but out of a growing sense of moral clarity. His diagnosis forces him to reflect on the life he's led, and though he knows he cannot undo the past, he begins to seek peace by doing what he can with the time he has left. These aren't grand gestures meant to erase his sins. They're quiet, human acts of repentance that reveal a man choosing to die with purpose. We see this transformation in the way Arthur starts helping people in small but meaningful ways. He begins forgiving debts rather than collecting them. As with Edith Downs, the widow of the very man whose illness he once coldly disregarded.
Here, take this. I don't need it no more.
I don't want your money.
Yeah, I know you don't want it.
I don't.
You sure as shit need it. Take it.
No.
I ain't looking for forgiveness. It ain't about that. But don't forgive me. Just take the money and get out of here, please. I know I ruined your life. I suffer for it every day. But don't let yourself get killed for pride. I seen it kill too many folk. Don't say anything. Don't thank me. Just take the money and pack your bags. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
I said don't thank me. Get out of here. Please.
When he visits her again, there's no demand, only remorse and a willingness to make amends. He gives money to strangers, offers help to those in trouble on the roads, and receives quiet praise from those around him. Uncle, along with the women in camp, begin to notice the shift, commenting that beneath Arthur's gruff exterior lies a small but real heart. These moments are not about rewriting his legacy. They're about accepting the pain he's caused and choosing to leave something better behind. But Arthur's most powerful act of redemption comes through his relationship with John Marston.
That's quite a scratch you got there.
Never thought I'd say this, but it's good to see you, Arthur Morgan.
As the gang falls apart and Dutch slips further into delusion, Arthur begins to see John not just as a fellow outlaw, but as a younger version of himself, a man still capable of choosing a different path. Arthur recognizes in John the same reckless ambition and blind loyalty he once had, and he knows where that road leads: death, guilt, and loss. Now let's look at the bond between Arthur Morgan and John Marston, a mirror too close. The relationship between Arthur Morgan and John Marston in Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the most compelling and tragic arcs in gaming. At the outset of the story, Arthur's disdain for John seems personal and sharp, but it stems not from a simple dislike of the man John is, but from the painful reflection of the man Arthur once was. In John, Arthur saw a mirror image of his own squandered youth, a path he desperately wished he could undo. Arthur's initial animosity is rooted in seeing John repeat his own life's greatest mistake, choosing the outlaw life over a chance at real connection and family. Arthur, who lost his own son and the boy's mother, understands the profound, irreplaceable value of family in a way the younger, more reckless John cannot.
I ain't the one taking Jack on fishing trips.
No, you ain't. If you say the boy ain't yours, what's the difference? You probably only run off again.
Why are you so interested in my life? Ain't you got one of your own?
Just do one thing or another, not be two people at once, that's all I'm saying.
It ain't that simple. You know that as well as anyone. Same as with you and that girl, what was her name, Mary?
He watches John drift from Abigail and Jack, taking for granted the very treasure that was stolen from Arthur's own life. This isn't just ignorance on John's part, it's a flagrant disregard for a gift Arthur would have given anything to possess. Every time John acts selfishly or runs from his responsibilities, he is unwittingly validating the choices that have left Arthur a lonely, dying man. Arthur's frustration is the cry of a man seeing his own ghost walk a path of damnation he knows all too well.
It's little John. He's got himself caught into a scrape again.
He ain't been seen in two days.
Your John will be fine. I mean, he may be as dumb as rocks and as dull as rusted iron, but that ain't changing because he got caught in some snowstorm.
He doesn't hate John Marston, the person. He hates the reflection of his own past failures. He resents John's carelessness because he knows the cost. Arthur's harsh words and cold shoulder are a desperate, albeit misguided, attempt to shock John into realizing what he stands to lose. He is trying to mentor John away from the abyss, using the only tools he has: gruffness and disappointment. He sees a man with a golden opportunity, a loving woman and a son, watches him throw it away for the same empty promises of loyalty and freedom from a charismatic leader, Dutch van der Linde, that Arthur himself had followed. As the gang unravels and Dutch's promises turn to poison, Arthur's perspective shifts. Faced with his own mortality, his purpose solidifies. He can no longer save himself, but he can save John.
I feel like you should take your woman and child and get lost.
Do you?
You could give something to Jack. It's that or... Well, I don't see no way out of this.
What about loyalty?
Be loyal to what matters.
What are you gonna do?
I'll be okay, but do it for me. It would make me feel good, if that makes any sense.
A little, but...
Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over.
The resentment melts away, replaced by a fierce, protective brotherly love. He recognizes that pushing John to be a better man, to be the father and husband he should be, is the only meaningful legacy he can leave behind. His final, desperate acts, holding back the tide of Pinkertons, giving John his hat and satchel, and urging him to go to his family are the ultimate expression of this transformation. It's this recognition that drives Arthur to push John away from the gang and toward a new life. He urges him to run, to take Abigail and Jack and start over, away from the violence and chaos. They don't want people like us no more, Arthur says, acknowledging the world is changing and that there's no future left for men like him. But there might still be one for John. This realization defines the emotional core of Arthur's final chapter. He begins to prioritize John's freedom over everything, even over Dutch, the man he once followed without question, to ensure his escape. In the end, Arthur's sacrifice is not just about saving a friend, it is about redeeming his own past through John. By ensuring John escapes the outlaw life and returns to Abigail and Jack, Arthur vicariously achieves the peace he could never find for himself. John Marston's eventual life as a rancher, a father, and a husband is Arthur Morgan's final and most profound act of redemption. Now, let's examine how Rain's Fall and Sister Calderón serve as guiding figures in Arthur's journey. In his final, desperate days, Arthur Morgan is guided toward redemption by two profoundly different moral figures, the Wapiti chieftain Rain's Fall and the Catholic nun Sister Calderón. While both are instrumental to his transformation, they guide him from opposing yet complementary standpoints. Rain's Fall, the sage, connects with Arthur through shared worldly struggle and offers a philosophy of endurance, while Sister Calderón, the saint, ministers to his soul through the lens of faith and spiritual forgiveness. Rain's Fall's guidance is rooted in a deep, empathetic connection forged by parallel tragedies. He and Arthur are both leaders of dying ways of life, one an outlaw and the other a chieftain, pushed to the brink by an encroaching, hostile world. Their bond is cemented by the shared grief of fathers who have lost children. This foundation allows Rain's Fall to offer a philosophical path to peace. He doesn't preach about sin or salvation. Instead, he speaks of endurance, using nature itself as a metaphor for surviving without pride or aggression. By witnessing Rain's Fall's dignified struggle and selfless leadership, Arthur's faith in Dutch's violent, self-serving ideology is shattered, motivating his final, pragmatic decision to save John Marston's family as a tangible legacy. Sister Calderón, in contrast, guides Arthur through a spiritual and confessional relationship.
Brother Dorkins was right about you. You are the most wonderful man.
Brother Dorkins is greatly deceived, I'm afraid, but I'm happy to help a little.
Their interactions are intimate moments of introspection where Arthur, confronting his own mortality, unburdens his soul. She isn't a fellow sufferer in the world's conflicts. She is a spiritual confidante who listens to his fears and offers the comfort of faith. Her core message is not about enduring the world, but about transcending its sins through love. When Arthur insists he is a bad man, she refutes him, focusing instead on his capacity for good and the importance of loving acts. Her famous advice, "Take a gamble that love exists," helps Arthur reframe his own self-perception, allowing him to find internal peace and face death without fear. Ultimately, both guides are essential to completing Arthur's redemption arc. Rain's Fall gives Arthur a worldly reason to change, showing him a model of honor that inspires his final heroic actions. Sister Calderón provides the internal, spiritual comfort he needs to forgive himself and believe he is worthy of that redemption. One appeals to his reason through shared experience, the other to his spirit through faith. Together, they provide Arthur with both a practical mission and the inner peace required to see it through, ensuring his redirection to be not just as a good man, but as a man who has made his peace with himself and the world.
Now all of you, stay with me. We ain't done yet.
Now let's look at Dutch van der Linde and how he mirrors Arthur in many ways. Arthur Morgan's unwavering loyalty to Dutch van der Linde isn't just a product of shared history or gang structure. it stems from something far more personal and painful. As a child, Arthur lost his mother early, and his father, a violent criminal, died when Arthur was only 11. Arthur doesn't speak of him fondly. Instead, he recalls bitterly, "I watched him die." This experience left Arthur not only orphaned, but emotionally starved, with a deep-rooted sense of abandonment and a lingering question about whether he is worthy of love. Into this void steps Dutch. More than a gang leader, Dutch becomes the father Arthur never had, a charismatic outlaw who offers structure, purpose, and the illusion of unconditional loyalty. Dutch takes Arthur in during his vulnerable teenage years and molds him, teaching him how to survive, how to steal, and how to believe in a dream larger than himself. The gang becomes a surrogate family. Dutch, with his lofty ideals about freedom and rebellion, offers Arthur what his own father never did: belonging, admiration, and guidance. For a time, Dutch's presence is healing. He champions the outcasts, people like Lenny, Charles, and Abigail, and makes them feel seen. To Arthur, this contrast with his own father's cruelty makes Dutch feel not just admirable, but essential. His approval becomes the validation Arthur's wounded younger self has always craved. But that illusion begins to unravel. As the gang's situation grows more desperate, Dutch's idealism gives way to paranoia, ego, and cruelty.
Jesus. Part of your philosophy books cover feeding a fella. Good goddamn alligator, Dutch. The part that covers weakness. That part.
See, Dutch? What was that?
Horrible old crone.
But you killed her.
She was gonna betray us, Arthur. Couldn't you tell?
No.
Well, I got some Spanish. She was.
You sure you're all right, Dutch?
I am just trying to make sure that some of us survive, Arthur.
I got one! A white one! Dad? I need help!
We need to go.
You ran away.
Oh, I did no such thing. Don't be a fool.
You're right. Dutch!
Micah, it pains me to say it, Arthur, but he's right.
Dutch!
Come on, boys.
His speeches about loyalty start to sound hollow. When Dutch kills Angelo Bronte in cold blood, abandons the gang during the chaos in Guarma, and leaves Arthur and John behind during critical moments, the mask slips. The man Arthur saw as a savior is revealed to be deeply self-interested, manipulative, and willing to sacrifice others for his own survival.
They are goddamn cowards, Arthur. Cowards. Of all the time we spent to run off.
Well, I guess they don't want to die, Dutch.
Ain't nobody gonna. Our community, we will survive. They will not crush us.
I hope so. But if we let Jack and the women free, well then
There
maybe
ain't
we
no
can...
freedom for no one in this country no more, Arthur. One more big score, we got enough money to leave. All this turmoil has the army and Pinkerton spinning. We take a boat and slip away.
I don't know what you're saying, Dutch, but it seems like I've heard it all before.
Just one more
And there's
train.
always a goddamn train.
Arthur! This is different. We know this is full of cash. Army payroll, money and supplies to repair the bridge that you blew. This is all going to plan. We rob Uncle Sam and we leave. The poetry of it all. What do you think?
It sounds wonderful. Hell, yeah. I ain't got much to lose, but... You know, the women and the children. And John and his family. I'm afraid I have to insist. I mean, we gotta let them go, because if the Pinkertons come through again, they will kill everyone.
John? Insist?
Yeah. Insist.
Still, Arthur finds it difficult to let go. Doubting Dutch means questioning his own foundation, the beliefs he's built his identity on. For years, Arthur justified his violence by clinging to Dutch's creed, that the end justifies the means. He enforced it faithfully, threatening innocents, shaking down debtors, and even killing when needed, all for the gang's survival. But as Dutch begins to betray those very ideals, Arthur is forced to face the truth not only about Dutch, but about himself. The real tragedy is that Dutch doesn't just mirror Arthur's father, he mirrors Arthur's former self. In Dutch's descent, Arthur sees the same blind loyalty, self-justification, and moral compromise that defined his own past. This reflection stings, especially when Arthur thinks back on Eliza and Isaac, the family he abandoned for the outlaw life. Dutch's betrayal reawakens that guilt. Just as Arthur once failed the people who needed him, Dutch is now doing the same. And yet, Arthur clings to hope.
Come on, get out of here.
Arthur, what are you doing?
I gotta go have a little chat before I get much sicker. I just saw Agent Milton, Dutch. Abigail shot him. She's okay. Not that you care too much about that. You rats. All of you. Seems old Micah was pretty close with Milton.
What the hell are you talking about, cowpoke?
You talked.
That's a goddamn lie.
Dutch.
Dutch, think of the future.
Milton told me.
And you believe him, Black Lung? You believe him?
It all makes sense now.
In Chapter 6, knowing he's dying, he still rides out to warn Dutch about Micah, hoping, desperately, that Dutch will finally see the truth. This ride, set to the haunting melody of That's the Way It Is, isn't just about saving the gang. It's about a man trying one last time to reach the father figure he's never stopped believing in. Even as everything around him crumbles, this act is heartbreaking, because by then, Arthur knows who Dutch truly is. He knows Dutch has chosen Micah, has abandoned him, and will continue to do so. But the child in Arthur, the part still yearning for a father's love, won't give up. Even in his final moments, Arthur's loyalty remains a scar that won't close. Arthur's transformation is powerful, but this one wounds remains unhealed. He finds redemption through other means, saving John, helping Edith Downs, rejecting Strauss, but his need for Dutch's love and approval lingers until the very end. When Dutch finally kills Micah in the epilogue, it feels like a quiet acknowledgement of Arthur's truth, but it's too late. Arthur never sees it. He dies alone, watching the sunrise, redeemed in action but still haunted in heart. Dutch's role as both father figure and distorted reflection makes Arthur's struggle all the more painful. He is caught in a cycle, desperate for love, betrayed again, yet unable to sever the bond, and yet it is this very struggle that makes Arthur so deeply human. His flaw is not weakness. It is his capacity to love, to believe in people, even when they disappoint him. Arthur Morgan's unhealed wounds isn't just a subplot. It is the emotional backbone of the story. It's what elevates him from a well-written character to one of gaming's most unforgettable. Because in the end, Arthur doesn't just fight to survive, he fights to matter, to love, and to be loved in return. And that's what makes his story resonate long after the final credits fade. So, in conclusion, in his final moments, as Arthur Morgan lies on the mountaintop watching the sunrise, he is no longer just an outlaw or a victim of Dutch's betrayal. He is a man who has found peace. He does not die in pursuit of fortune or vengeance. He dies in service of something greater, the protection of a future he knows he will never see.
All right, Arthur, come on, let's go.
You go.
Keep pushing, Arthur.
No. No. I think I've pushed all I can.
Come on.
You go.
We ain't got time for this, not now.
We ain't both gonna make it. Go. Now. I'll hold them off. It would mean a lot to me. Please. There ain't no more time for talk. Go.
Arthur.
Go to your family.
Arthur!
Get the hell out of here and be a goddamn man.
You're my brother.
I know. It's over.
Oh, Dutch. He's right. I gave you all I had. I did. Sean made it. He's the only one.
Stand unshaken. Amidst the crash of worlds.
By ensuring John's escape, Arthur chooses sacrifice over survival, selflessness over bitterness. It's not just a death, it's a victory of spirit. Arthur enters the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 as a hardened enforcer shaped by loss, loyalty, and guilt. But through pain, illness, and reflection, he changes. He begins as a man defined by the code of others, by Dutch's ideals, by the rules of the gang, by the image of toughness he's forced to wear. But he ends as someone who makes his own choices, based not on orders, but on conscience. His transformation is not loud or grand. It unfolds in small, human moments, an apology, a helping hand, a decision to walk away from violence when he could have leaned into it. This is what makes Arthur Morgan more than just a great character. He feels real. He carries wounds, makes mistakes, and struggles with the same questions many of us do. Can I be better? Have I gone too far? What will I leave behind? He is a man caught between vice and virtue, constantly wavering, but never giving up the fight to become something more than what the world expects of him. The scale and detail of Red Dead Redemption 2, with its massive cast, painstaking production, and immersive world, certainly helped bring Arthur to life. But what truly makes him unforgettable isn't just the realism of the game, it's the humanity of his story. He is the heart of the narrative, and his journey anchors every moment in something deeply personal and emotional. Years after first playing the game, Arthur Morgan remains a character who lingers, not because of his strength or his skills or his legendary status, but because of his change. He represents the idea that no matter how far you've fallen, there is always the chance to rise. That redemption isn't about erasing the past, it's about facing it, learning from it, and choosing, even in your final breath, to do good. In the end, Arthur doesn't ride off into the sunset. He becomes the sunrise, brief, beautiful, and full of hope for someone else's tomorrow. He is, without question, one of the most powerful fictional protagonists ever written. Not because he's flawless, but because he reminds us that even the flawed can still choose to be good. And that brings us to the end. It's been such an immense pleasure to finally let out all these jumbled thoughts I've been holding on to about Arthur Morgan and Red Dead Redemption. Putting it all into words was honestly kind of cathartic, and I'm really thankful you stuck around to share that with me. If I mispronounced anything along the way, I'm so sorry. I'm still trying to get the hang of talking behind a mic like a normal person. A huge thank you to my dearest Krista for helping me piece this video together. You kept me sane. And to my other dearest and most talented friend, Phoenix. Thank you for editing and doing all the hard work I couldn't. This video wouldn't exist without you. Thank you again, truly. Be kind to yourself, and I'll see you on the next one.